Life after Barrett's death moved forward, though it often felt like walking through fog. His absence left a hollow space in their lives, especially for Emma. But Lila never let that emptiness become despair. She helped Emma channel her grief into growth, into passion, learning, and empathy. Lila herself had known loss longer than she'd known love, but now, love surrounded her. Still, she had to learn how to live without fear of losing it all again. One chilly winter evening, a letter arrived. It was from the state, related to Lila's time in the orphanage. An old box of her belongings had been uncovered during some renovations. Curious, Lila arranged to have it delivered. When it arrived, it was nothing more than a small cardboard box, its edges frayed with age. But inside were fragments of her forgotten past, a worn stuffed rabbit, a drawing she'd made of a family she never had, and a letter addressed, "To my daughter." Her breath caught. She unfolded it with shaking hands. The handwriting was faded but still legible. It was from her birth mother, never mailed, never given to her, just buried in the bottom of a storage box, waiting. "My dearest Lila," it began, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed. I was young, scared, and alone. But you were never unwanted. You were my heartbeat, and I hope one day, you'll find someone who sees how bright your light truly is." The letter ended abruptly, smudged by what looked like tears. That night, Lila sat beside Emma's bed as she slept, the letter in her lap, a soft ache in her chest. All those years, she had convinced herself she was unloved from the start. But now, knowing someone had cared, even from a distance, mended a wound she didn't know still bled. The next morning, she told Emma everything. "I was an orphan, but I wasn't forgotten," Lila said softly. "And neither are you. Your father, he saw in me what I couldn't see in myself. Just like I see the strength in you." Emma, now 17, wrapped her arms around her and whispered, "I wouldn't be who I am if you hadn't come back that day." Lila smiled. "Neither would I." With renewed purpose, Lila poured more energy into the Barrett Foundation, the center she'd created in Barrett's honor. But this time, she expanded its mission. It would no longer only house children, it would provide mentorship, counseling, life skills, and even scholarships for higher education. She hired former orphans who had grown up in the system to be mentors, giving them a chance not only to work but to heal by helping others. Emma volunteered every weekend, becoming a role model for children who had never known kindness from someone their own age. She taught art classes, brought therapy dogs, and organized story nights, reading the very same books Lila once read to her during those long, quiet nights after her mother died. One day, while at the center, a young girl named Rosie caught Emma's eye. Rosie reminded her of herself, quiet, withdrawn, always clutching the same stuffed dog wherever she went. Emma approached her slowly, gently, the way Lila once approached her. Bit by bit, Rosie opened up, and when she did, it was like watching a flower bloom in time-lapse. Emma would later tell Lila, "Now I know how you felt with me." Years continued to pass. Emma turned 18 and chose to stay close to home for college so she could keep working with Lila and the foundation. She pursued psychology, following in Lila's footsteps. Her dream was to create a child trauma recovery program unlike anything that existed, a mix of therapy, art, community, and love. Lila couldn't have been prouder. But as the seasons changed, so did time. One spring morning, Lila received a phone call that would once again challenge her understanding of fate. A woman named Grace was on the line. She worked with a nonprofit that reconnected long-lost families and had stumbled across Lila's name while researching old case files related to her mother. Through DNA confirmation and some persistence, Grace had found Lila's half-brother, someone Lila never knew existed. His name was James, and he lived just a few hours away. At first, Lila hesitated. Her life finally felt full, why dig into a past that had already been made peace with? But Emma encouraged her to meet him. "You always told me healing isn't about forgetting. Maybe this is another piece to your story. So Lila agreed. The meeting was awkward at first, two strangers with the same eyes and different lives. James had been raised by their mother's sister, unaware until adulthood that he even had a sister. Their paths had been parallel but divided by fate. But over coffee and shared childhood memories, a connection formed. James told Lila that their mother passed away when he was 19, never forgiving herself for giving Lila up. She always talked about you, he said, pulling out a worn photo of Lila as a toddler. She prayed you found someone good. I think she'd be proud of the woman you became. Tears welled in Lila's eyes. They kept in touch. Slowly, James became a part of her life. He volunteered at the foundation, fixing broken doors, painting walls, even helping the kids with bike repairs. He and Emma developed a sibling-like bond almost instantly, and for the first time in her life, Lila had something that felt like family, by both blood and heart. Then came a day that brought everything full circle. The state-run orphanage where Lila had grown up was scheduled to be shut down and demolished. The building had become unsafe and outdated. Many saw it as a forgotten relic. But to Lila, it was sacred ground. It held the echoes of children's laughter, pain, dreams, and her own story. She bought it. Using the remainder of her inheritance and donations from those touched by her work, she transformed it into a new kind of place. The Barrett Home for Children, designed not as a shelter, but a launch pad. Bright walls, open courtyards, art studios, therapy rooms, and a library with names of every donor etched into the wood beams above. At the entrance, a quote carved in stone read, "Every child deserves to be seen." On opening day, Lila stood with Emma and James by her side, giving a speech to the gathered crowd. "I was once a child no one noticed. Then someone saw me. He gave me a job, but more than that, he gave me a purpose. I want every child who walks through these doors to know, your story matters. You matter." Applause roared. Among the crowd stood many children, teens, volunteers, some of them former orphans, some of them donors, and many who had been inspired by the journey of one girl who came from nothing and built a legacy of love. And that night, as the stars lit up the sky, Lila sat on a bench outside the new center, Emma resting her head on her shoulder. "Do you ever miss the quiet?" Emma asked. Lila smiled. "Sometimes. But I'd rather hear laughter." They sat in silence for a while. Then Emma asked a question she'd been holding for years. "Do you think Dad knew this would happen?" Lila thought about Barrett, his quiet strength, his eyes that saw beyond her circumstances. "I think he hoped for it," she whispered. "And somehow. I think he believed in it before I did." Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn photo. It was one of the few they had of Barrett smiling, truly smiling, taken during a picnic when Emma was 10 and Lila had just made her laugh so hard she dropped her drink. They placed the photo inside the foundation's memory wall that night. It would remain there forever, framed in gratitude and love. A reminder that sometimes, the smallest acts, a smile, a job offer, a second chance, can become the seed of something far greater. And that a rich man who once stopped outside an orphanage didn't just thank a stranger. He helped change the world.